All right, welcome to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And today we actually get a glimpse into the foreign policy acumen of Andrew Yang, because there's a little bit of a hullabaloo going on between China and the Houston Rockets.
NBA
in
team.
which, the NBA team, yes, you're correct, in which Andrew Yang has opined a thing happened, and we're going to talk about it. For our analysis is none other than Cody the Oracle.
Well, Heather, everyone. And yeah, so I guess really quickly, I'll kind of, unbury the lead. So we have an article here from the Rockets Wires, actually from USA Today's Houston Rockets specific website.
I love that name, Rockets Wire.
Yeah, well, it says U.S. presidential candidate candidate Yang blasts Chinese response to rockets. And they have a brief gist of the story. So I'll quickly catch you guys up on exactly what happened. So.
Wait, but before you go further, though, just pay attention to that word blasts so we can come back to it later. Keep going.
Oh, because rockets?
I didn't even think of that because the
Yeah,
Rockets connection. But I was just thinking it was actually kind of tepid what he said. So I don't know if blast is the right word. But anyway,
exactly,
keep going.
But anyway, so the Chinese government, so the ongoing controversy and backlash regarding a tweet about Hong Kong from Houston Rockets GM Daryl Morey reached high political levels when U.S. presidential candidate Andrew Yang weighed in. What they're referring to, Daryl Morey, who works as the general manager for the Houston Rockets, tweeted out a picture that, I'll pull the picture up in a second, basically said, "I stand in solidarity with the Hong Kong protesters." Now, they'll mention in the article one second, a little bit down here later, what makes that so interesting for the Rockets to have done it and what happened. Anyway, so he would later, Daryl Morey would later delete the tweet. Billionaire Rockets owner Tillman Fertitta immediately came out and said, "We do not endorse, we're not a political team," because he knew what was coming. Like I said, billionaire owner, smart businessman. Well, this is what was coming from China. A day later, numerous Chinese sponsors and even the Chinese Basketball Association, with former Rockets franchise icon Yao Ming as president, suspended their ties with the team. Again, just to reaffirm, Yao Ming only played for the Houston Rockets the 11 years he was in America playing in the NBA. He is now the president of the Chinese Basketball Association, and he also severed all ties with this franchise because of what they said. And by the way, the general manager, on his own account, I do not believe it was the Rockets' official account, just said, we stand in solidarity with Hong Kong, and this is what happened. So immediately Tillman Fertitta and the NBA apologized. Kind of backed down to China, really. And then in addition, Tencent, this is what I think is crazy. This is how serious they took that one. And I'll show you guys the actual tweet in question in a second. It's not that crazy. This is their response. Tencent Sports announced Sunday that all live streaming and news reporting of the Rockets would be suspended. The company gave customers who bought a subscription to watch Houston games online the opportunity to pick another team. So basically, they didn't take it lightly at all, which was, again, a pretty fairly tepid thing, just kind of saying, not tepid, but it wasn't. He didn't go on a 3-hour podcast explaining why he hates the Chinese government. He just kind of posted a meme almost. Anyway, here's where Andrew Yang gets in. So, Andrew Yang jumps in, and this is like you said before. They said he blasts. Well, technically, he says that the Chinese government banning the Rockets is a terrible move. Which terrible move for the Rockets, for China, for the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association, who's it? I don't know. I don't want to get too far into it. However, though, again, we see Andrew Yang, interjecting himself into the sports world. We've talked about it before in the past. So many times he's kind of popped up. Just recently, I saw I don't know if it's current or former NFL player. I believe Antonio Bryant was his name. Came out and posted a lot of stuff on Twitter in support of Andrew Yang. So he kind of is getting the athletes interested in how he interjects his way in NCAA as well. But again, we see him in here again. The reason why I wanted to highlight this one I thought was really interesting, though, is because it does give us a tiny glimpse into what potential foreign relations with countries like China would be with someone like Andrew Yang. Because you'll know, again, it's kind of easy to condemn the Chinese from outright eliminating this business. Because essentially, this is, remember, from a geopolitical thing, the Houston Rockets are an American company that was doing business in China, and after an American company's employee voiced his freedom of speech in America, the Chinese basically severed all ties with them.
Well, no, okay.
So it's tricky, but I don't know.
But
if
how
you can
tricky
use,
is it?
I don't know if you can. I think you can use Twitter
how
in China.
tricky is it? Okay, you've got a communist regime, and that's what the CPA is. Okay, there's a reason why Rush Limbaugh calls them the Chi-Coms as a joke, and there's we can euphemize it, but it's a communist regime that's still left over from the '60s, and Mao Zedong, and they're so thin-skinned. This is the weird thing. For those of you that think communism is powerful and that it just somehow generates a better, stronger, more utopian government, just see how Communist Party officials react. One comment, one tweet is enough for them to say, what did it say in that article? Was the official Chinese consulate response?
Oh, yeah, one second, I'll pull that up.
To the
that
tweet?
was pretty funny too. Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. So I'll read through it. It says, we are deeply shocked by
Deeply
the erroneous
shocked.
comments on Hong Kong. I do like how they refer to him as Mr. Daryl Morey. I always like the Mr. full name.
Yeah.
General Manager of the Houston Rockets. We have lodged representations and expressed strong dissatisfaction with the Houston Rockets and urged the latter to correct the error and take immediate concrete measures to eliminate the adverse impact. I don't know if they're asking the Rockets to come out and condemn the protesters in Hong Kong after this, but
So
that's kind of
where is the
right?
anti-censorship left? Where is the, like, people say Donald Trump is fickle and thin-skinned. One tweet sends an entire party and an entire country to their consulate to condemn what you're saying. This is absolutely nuts. Could you imagine a German company literally in like 1939, if some American who was a famous boxer, just said, hey, I don't think what Adolf Hitler is doing in the Eastern France is good. Could you imagine just a bunch of American companies saying, oh, we're sorry, sir. Yeah, we don't want to offend the Nazis. Yeah, you're right. Or any Nazi sympathizers with the United States of America. That's crazy. Who's got values about this anymore? Like, is this really what we become, is completely transactional?
Well, I mean, to be fair to the NBA, Adam Silver, who's the commissioner of the NBA.
Okay.
By the way, who's received a lot of praise from people for bringing a more kind of progressive stance to the NBA. Hated to love it. I'm just saying, he's definitely not I don't believe he's a conservative, Adam Silver, right? And this was his response. He stood up. He stood up for the free speech rights of Rockets General Daryl Morey. So, like I said, there is people. This isn't necessarily a right and left wing thing. Now,
yeah, see, one is running for
though,
president who's actually going to have to sit in the room across the table from the Communist Party of China, and the other one just has to run the NBA. And right now, I seem to be liking the NBA guy's response more than I'm liking Andrew Yang's response.
Hold on, though. You have to one more thing, though, before you praise him too much, I want to. Maybe it's just the phrasing in this article.
Are you going to save me from something really bad?
Just the phrasing in this article, but the first thing he refers to in this article, the first line is that there's no doubt the economic impact is already clear. So yeah, that was a bit.
But good.
But then he couched it saying, I think it's a values-based organization. I want to make it clear Daryl Morey is supported in terms of his ability to exercise freedom of expression.
Yeah, but do you know how much money that we could make off the Cubans if we were just to buy their sugarcane and all of these other cool goods and commodities that we could get for cheap from Cuba, but we don't because we levied an embargo? Because when you're a bloodthirsty dictator like Fidel and Raul Castro, who will shoot 8-year-old boys and force their mothers to watch the execution, we don't want to do business with you. Well, so in that case, the economic impact is clear. We're going to embargo you. I'm okay with that.
What about are you okay with this then?
Okay, what?
Last November,
I'm okay with not being beholden to a psychotic dictatorship 8,000 miles away that shares nothing of American values. I'm okay with that.
Okay, remember how the Rockets had a lot of business interests in China? Well, was it okay last November for them to run out their Auspicious Clouds City Edition jerseys that are basically just heavily influenced by the nation of China?
Look, I'm okay with people catering to an international audience. Like, you're a gamer. There's tons of games that have like Korean characters now as this big like shout out.
Well, China is the center of Dota 2 outside of America.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I'm okay with catering. Like, for example, in the movie industry, there's franchises. The reason why Liam Neeson has a paycheck still and they keep making Taken 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 is because there's something about China. They love the Taken franchise. It always passes the Censors Bureau, which only allows like 8 American movies per year. So the producers keep making Taken. I'm okay with just keep making Taken because you're responding to a market demand. But creating Taken as a good to sell on the international market is different than saying, yes, I will compromise my values in order to accommodate your non-American values. And not standing for something. And I'm sorry, you should be able to tweet, I support freedom in a communist nation without, and fine, be damned if you suffer those economic, there's some things I'm willing to suffer economic consequences for. There's just some things I'm willing to suffer economic consequences
but I'm saying
for.
Along those lines, then like you said, would it have been morally correct for American film production companies to have been making films, as you alluded to earlier, in the 1930s for perhaps a particular audience to sell them there and make money there. Would that have been perhaps morally bankrupt?
No. I'd be fine with, for example, we know that throughout Minnesota, Nebraska, areas like that, there was tons of Scandinavian immigrants. That's why it's the Minnesota Vikings still, in Argentina, for example, there was an insane amount of German immigrants. Basically, whoever got turned away from Ellis Island basically just continued on the boat down to Buenos Aires, where they didn't check you for, tuberculosis or, excessive fleas in your luggage or whatever.
Or past party affiliation, perhaps?
Well, no, that was after the war.
Okay.
No, this was before the war. We're talking like around the famine that predated World War I. We're talking about the turn of the century. The reason why all the Nazis went to Buenos Aires was because they had family there that had already established themselves 20 years earlier when they had fled Europe due to famine, okay? This is like around 1819-ish, right? I mean, sorry, not 1819. The early 20th century, around 1917 and stuff like that, when World War I had started. So anyway, all I'm saying is that, like, if I were to make an international movie, knowing that, for example, just like they make action movies now, they'll make action movies now that are easy to dub into other languages because they'll sell so well overseas. That's one thing. But literally, like, kowtowing, like, if one of those actors said, like, for perfect example, what happened when the North Korean dictator didn't like the interview? Do you remember that?
Yeah, but
when the North Korean dictator didn't like the interview, all of a sudden Hollywood turns super conservative and says, wait, why should we have to take our American movie down just because Kim Jong-un doesn't like that we made fun of him? And all of a sudden the world realized you have to stand up for your values. That's the camp I sit in.
Well, I hate to be jaded, but when it comes to films, and I saw the interview.
I mean, it might have been a horrible film.
I wouldn't put it past a producer watching one of those cuts and saying, how are we going to save this? Like, how are we going to make it? And then drumming up this controversy to bring it up. Here's an article from the BBC, I believe, goes back to December 2014. North Korea berates Obama over the interview release. North Korea has condemned U.S. President Barack Obama over the release of the film The Interview about a fictional plot to kill its leader, Kim Jong-un. I'm no fan of North Korea, but I would say that if the North Koreans made a movie mockingly about killing the president of the United States, whoever it is, I probably wouldn't. I would probably say,
which they do all the time, and release it as proper. I mean, North Korea literally produces propaganda videos in which missiles are falling upon Washington, D.C.
And you know what? I'm not a fan of those. I would be totally fine if North Korea didn't. But anyway, just to get back a little bit more to the point. So Andrew Yang's official response to so far was the Chinese government banning the rockets is a terrible move. So.
What's that mean, Andrew? And that, to me, I'm sorry, that just...
It is a little bit vague.
That's I like you because you're an outsider, you're not a politician. That seems like it's got so much plausible deniability in it that a politician wrote it so that if they had to walk something back later because their constituency didn't like it, they could. It's just way too vague for me. I want somebody to get up there and say, look, this is the reality of things, and let's call a spade a spade.
It's, I definitely think... It's honestly a tough question. It really is to me because I mean I don't want to sound like a Chinese sympathizer, but from the perspective of China, if they're like, hey, look, I mean, imagine if from our perspective, from the perspective of the American.
What's the original tweet? No. Was it death to?
I believe he just said he stands with the Hong Kong protesters. I believe the original tweet says "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." That was the original tweet read.
Oh, bummer.
But again though,
I would not get that offended if somebody from Germany, one of my German friends, said, fight against fascism, I stand with Antifa. I would literally just kind of think, the guy didn't know what he's talking about.
But by the
and
guy,
move on.
Hold on,
I'm not going to divest my entire country's resources from his football team.
But again, you have to keep in mind here, it's why I think it's interesting, because that's one of the most fascinating angles for me, just reading and trying to learn more about relations with the U.S. and China, is that there's simultaneously the relations between the U.S. government and the Chinese government, U.S. businesses and Chinese businesses, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these different relationships going across there between the different governments and the different large corporations inside of those governments. And here's where we see the cross-section again with Andrew Yang finding himself and trying to get in the middle of. But I do... And to be fair, I want to make sure before we finish, just to be fair with everyone, I want to find the original article. Julian Castro, who was also running for president, also spoke out about this. So Andrew Yang isn't the only candidate who brought up this.
His was very verbose, but I actually liked it more.
Well, it's more direct. It's more of an actual condemnation than commentary. Yeah. Andrew Yang's came across more as commentary. Not for me, man. So I guess if I had to say what it means I would like to see him be, especially he's not even president yet, and this isn't the biggest deal. I would like to see like the Chinese government, but it's kind of hard to say that the Chinese government shouldn't be able to sever ties with American companies if they disagree politically with those companies.
Because the government is the company in China. People are fooling themselves if they think there's Chinese companies.
But still, even then, though, if I have a country and I'm doing business with you and I find out one of your top employees is basically saying that the people that are protesting against me are good and we should support them, from the logical angle of China's been like, yeah, we don't need you people that bad. Like if you're gonna support our enemies, which is basically what's happening, we'll sever ties. I get it, but I do agree. I liked Julian Castro at least kind of, and I am no fan of Julian Castro for the most part. I don't hate the guy. I'm just not a big fan of his. I thought this tweet was really nice because he said, China is using its economic power to silence critics, even those in the U.S. The United States must lead with our values and speak out for pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong and not allow American citizens to be bullied by an authoritarian government. Again, Tillman Fertitta, billionaire businessman, knew immediately what just happened and tried his hardest to save everything, and he lost. I mean, again, Tencent, you want...
Props to Tito.
Tillman, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, not...
Tillman
Tito.
Fertitta, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's...
I just called him Tito.
Hey, maybe it's like a nickname, right?
No, that's totally like... That's totally like a Latino nickname. You know what I'm saying? That's really funny. You just, hey, maybe if he needs a new nickname, we could always call him Tito. You know what I'm saying? That was awesome.
There's one thing I wanted to pull up, but I can't think of it now. But like I said, ultimately, last takeaway from this as far as very minor incident involving Yang. The incident itself was fascinating, though. And again, I like the idea of just getting a little bit of a window into what... It's not enough of a window. Like, for example, if I'm trying to read into what would this mean if Andrew Yang was president and this happened, I would hope if he was president, he'd have a stronger condemnation than it's a bad move. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
this came across more as
you imagine
more as commentary than actual condemnation.
Yeah. Now this obviously isn't blitzkrieg, but could you imagine, like FDR just saying, "Whoa, man, those Germans breaking that treaty with Russia." And blitzkrieging through Poland. That's a horrible idea.
Again, I don't know if we can compare them that directly. But,
I know,
but I do agree that it is a weird line for the U.S. president to walk because again, I wouldn't say it's out of line for China to say this political disagreement is going to lead to us severing business ties with you. It's not smart money, but I don't think it's out of line to do so. However, at the same time, again, Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA, brought it up as a free speech issue and saying, well, look. Daryl Morey is entitled to free speech because there was a lot of talk in the NBA about will they be punishing this Daryl Morey because everybody knew immediately when I guess that's the larger point of the story. Wow. Everybody who was a business person involved knew the second he sent that they were doing damage control because they knew what the communist Chinese government was going to do.
That's what bothers me about all of these. Ready for the drink?
Oh, God.
SJ Dubs.
Well, you already talked about World War II for half the video.
You're talking about World War II for half the video. No, I'm saying, what does that say about America, though, where we're literally talking about whether to support or not support a guy who supported democracy? I mean, it's funny. You watch the protesters in Hong Kong and they're carrying American flags. Here, our protesters burn them. You know what I'm saying?
Again, remember.
Like, they could have, any one of those NBA people could have put a I support Antifa meme up. Nobody would have said a thing.
Again, though, remember.
But the second they support democracy.
But no, but please, I just got to make sure it's the street. Trust me, I was a much bigger fan of the previous NBA commissioner than I am. I'm not a big Adam Silver fan for many reasons. However, to be fair to the guy, he did stand up for what's not his employee.
Yeah, no, I give him credit for that.
So I just want to make sure that make clear that the American companies here. Now, the Rockets weren't happy. And again, the first thing Adam Silver mentioned in this answer is the money. Hey, there is no doubt the economic impact's already clear. However, it is worth noting that they did eventually still stand behind, tepidly, but they stood behind the American citizen and his right to free speech. Again, though, man, it's a really weird issue, and it's going to be tough for any president.
Maybe this is why I'm not the owner of an NBA team, because I would just be like, fine, you don't want to support our team? Yeah, name another owner that had a 7'6" Chinese superstar for any other team. Yeah, here what?
Yeah, again, remember this.
Where are you guys gonna put all your fandom in American basketball? You're gonna put in the Golden State Warriors now? They don't got a single guy like Yao Ming.
Actually, the Warriors do have a lot. They do a lot of they do like a lucky something night that's got Chinese culture stuff related to it. They are another one of the franchises that actually does have some deep ties with China. But like I said,
okay, so it was a bad example, but
yeah, but exactly. It just happened to be. There's others like that, like the Lakers, for example, don't. But
I do like that Andrew Yang though is up on things and that he does comment on sports because I think it unifies him a lot with his base. That was something that Barack Obama was good at. He would do those March Madness. I would suck at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to call you and my dad.
It's all you know how I do brackets. You know how I do brackets.
You just guess.
Ish. I have a couple teams that I just homer all the way through to the finals, and I'm never right, but whatever. And then I just look around and say, 14 over like a 14 seed would play like a 3 or 4. So yeah, whatever. I'll just pick this one and then make the run there. And you get one right. It's a lot of fun. I mean, trust me, Barack Obama, I doubt was doing 50 hours of research over the month before, doing point spread. I'm pretty sure he just looked and said, because he's from Ohio, right?
Oh, goodness.
No, Illinois, Chicago, right?
Yeah,
Illinois.
I know he lived in Illinois when he was elected senator. I don't know if that's where he's born.
Nah, he was always like a Bulls homer. So yeah, he'd probably say, I don't know what the biggest Illinois college school is, but he'd pick them to go far. Yeah, stuff like that. Again, being a president, which I always say Barack Obama was very good at being president in front of the camera. You know what I mean? Like, he would do stuff that was very open-ended and very pleasing to many people. But again, here we go. Andrew Yang once again inserting himself into America because... I mean, remember, every time he's on the debate stage, they ask him questions about China. So people are, because he's the Asian president, the Asian guy running, the only Asian guy. The other Asian girls are running. They won't talk about them. Yeah. He's the only Asian guy running. And they always give him the China questions. But we do see him, again, interjecting himself into a Chinese discussion here. And depending on how you read into this, perhaps condemning the Chinese government for what they did, or perhaps providing... commentary. I don't know. Was it feedback to the Chinese? I'm just giving you some feedback. I don't think it was a good move. I don't.
Constructive criticism, as we call it.
Exactly. So I would have liked to see from someone who was trying to be the commander in chief a little bit stronger. I mean, Julian Castro came out guns blazing, full condemnation.
Or at least the intern that runs his Twitter profile did.
Still, but just because I don't agree with him on a lot of things. I do agree with him on the notion that I definitely do not like to see foreign governments use their power to basically silence critics in America. That is scary. That's what we saw, and I didn't like how Andrew Yang didn't address that at all. I do like seeing him, like I said, he has his eyes open, ears open. I just would have liked to see perhaps, and again, it's one tweet. I'm not going to say his stance on China's weak, but just I would have perhaps liked to see a little bit stronger condemnation if you were to jump into this and say, hey, look, it's not right for the free speech rights of Americans. But again, at the same time, I do think, because you know what does separate Julian Castro and Andrew Yang?
7 percentage points in the polls.
Well, no, background-wise.
Obviously, Andrew Yang's parents, his father grew up on a peanut farm in Taiwan.
No.
Well, yes. That's what he said.
No, what I was getting to, only because I don't want to run too long.
Julian Castro is obviously of Latino descent, so, I mean, there's Asian versus South American political influence.
Well, no, Andrew Yang's a businessman. And as a businessman,
I
he knows. He's like, dude, you just cost that team a big deal with it. Like the money lost because I think he understands that impact. I mean, like I said, Adam Silver, somebody I'm sure would refer to as an SJ Dub if you got to know him more. He even comes out.
He doesn't seem like it. No, because SJ Dubs don't like free speech.
Trust me. Look at Adam Silver and tell me what he come back with.
Okay.
Personally, I don't mind about that stuff. I have basketball issues with Adam Silver. I'm just saying, knowing you and knowing his background, you wouldn't like him. However.
Oh, geez, harsh, Cody.
You wouldn't hate the guy. I'm just saying he's
Adam Silver. I'll give you more of an opportunity than that, dog. I promise.
Okay. Anyway,
we'll do lunch.
Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that again. Like even he mentioned immediately, it was the financial impact, financial ramifications. So I guess that would be the one thing I do look into it with Yang's response. It shows that Andrew Yang, forever the capitalist, forever the businessman. You know what I mean? Because he even knows, like, look, it's bad that China did it, but you can even tell him.
Yeah, but capitalism and business, I will fight that. I will fight for their capitalism and be pro-business to the day I die, but only if it's executed with values. And I want to see those values, Andrew Yang. You got to stand up to the Chinese, or else their corrupt brand of crony capitalism mixed with communism is just gonna.
Yeah, no, because seemingly Adam Silver had a stronger pushback against China than Andrew Yang for some reason. Adam Silver runs the NBA. Again, I don't want to draw too much into this. It's a 7-letter tweet or 7-word tweet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8-word tweet, I believe.
We're averaging 3 minutes per word on this podcast.
This is not a full roundup of his foreign policy, but I did think it was a good example again of a interesting, kind of unique story that touches kind of multiple different levels. It touches the sports world, the business world, geopolitics, all that stuff. And I thought it was cool seeing Andrew Yang kind of weasel into the middle of it and get a little bit of feedback of what he would think on it. I would like to see him come out stronger. But again, part of it was talking about Andrew Yang's response and his glimpse into kind of foreign policy. But I just think it's, in general, an interesting story. It brings up really interesting questions about U.S. China relations. Because, like, seriously, like, on one end, I understand China, government, businesses, whatever, saying, hey, if you're going to support people that are literally protesting against us, we're going to not do business with you. But then the other end, though, is you have the Chinese Communist government basically using financial implications to pressure American businesses into not saying things. I don't like that either. So it is a tough line to walk, man. It's a really tough line to walk. I try to be fair, again, even though I know the Chinese government is not to be the, praised.
It's not a tough line to walk if you have values and a backbone.
I'm saying just to be fair to them, my larger point is I see both perspectives. It isn't good for a foreign government to be using business pressure to silence American critics. That's not good. But at the same time, I don't know if we could just say, tough luck, China. You got to suck it up and just take the criticism.
How about tough luck, China? It's not your league. It's ours. You literally have to put nets around your buildings to catch the people that are trying to commit suicide because your depraved business culture is so bereft of any humanity.
Well, so hold on. Should the NBA then revoke all broadcast rights from China so you can't broadcast their games in the country?
Oh, dude, I will tell you right now.
Would you go that far? Would you say that an American business?
I would consider that for human rights violators as bad as China. Actually, China's not as bad as like Saudi Arabia and North Korea. But, I would seriously, 50% of me says yes to that. 50% of me says yes to that.
Again, it's tough, right? It is tough because you have to be like, at the same time, it's like, obviously as an American from an American perspective,
but we got hosed in this trade war. The reason why we opened up China is we thought we were going to be able to sell them a bunch of goods, and they marketed the trade agreement that we were going to have with them as like, look, you get all these billions of people that you can market and sell stuff to. We just want to be able to sell you our stuff as well. It's going to be this reciprocal thing, and it ended up being them selling us all their cheap crap, just absolutely diving American business down, and then them just counterfeiting to sell themselves counterfeit versions of what we were supposed to be selling them. So you have to understand culturally. I'm sorry, I may get in trouble for this, but the average transparency and honesty expected from one American from another American and his culture is not the same amount of honesty expected from other people and other cultures. Like, they literally don't plan on keeping these arrangements and these bargains going into them. And that's what China did. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and they did it. And it has cost us how many hundreds of thousands of jobs, how many gutted homes, how many divorces have been caused due to economic stress, due to the failures of these factories and these towns that actually ran around factories. And I can name 50 companies right now, starting with Rubbermaid in the beginning, all the way to Milwaukee and all the way. I mean, I could go on for days talking about these companies that have failed because of counterfeiting Chinese Chi-coms, whatever you want to call them, because they're not companies because they're so regulated by the Communist Party. They're whatever public-private partnership you want to call a Chinese company, okay? They're dishonest. I don't like anything to do with them, and I don't want a president that will not stand up to China because I have seen firsthand the effects of China. Anyway, don't get me started on China. Let us know what you guys think. At the end of the day, we want to hear what our audience thinks. If you guys have a comment for us, we still try and read every single comment. We're still there. We're still there. So please make sure you comment below, like, subscribe, share, and join us on the Twitch live stream Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.